Hello, this is Sophia. This tutorial will show you how to paint this simple watercolor landscape. Enjoy! Also keep in mind that this video is speeded up, so take your time with it and pause the video whenever you need to, or rewind and rewatch it, and just be patient and have fun. I'm going to begin by taping all my edges with masking tape. This step is optional, but it gives you that white border at the end. Then I'm going to very lightly sketch out my composition. So I'm not going to put hardly any pressure on the paper with my pencil. I'm pressing super lightly, and that's so that the watercolor can cover up your pencil marks and they don't shine through the paint. So I'm just doing some little foothills here with a lake in the center and then a big hill in the background. You're welcome to change up this composition however you want, or look up reference pictures, or follow along. And then I'm just going to clean up my lines a little bit with an eraser so there's not so many pencil marks. And now you're ready to begin painting. So I'm going to start with the sky. I'm just going to do a really light wash of this baby blue color. Try to keep it pretty even. And then to make some clouds, I'm just going to bunch up a paper towel and then dab up some white areas to form the clouds. Next, I'm going to paint that mountain in the background. So we're going to work our way from the background mountains to the ones in the foreground. And the mountains that are in the back are going to be the lightest and dullest in color. So if you ever look in nature or at pictures, you'll see that the mountains in the back are a lot lighter and the mountains in the foreground or closest to you are a lot darker in color. So we're going to follow that rule in our painting as well to add some perspective. So I just started with this wash of light blue and it was kind of too dark, so I dabbed some color up with a paper towel. And I'm just going to go over it one more time with like a grayish blue. So I'm mixing in some black and dark blue together. Next, I'm moving on to the next little hill. And I'm using this olive green color. If you don't have that color on your palette, you can mix brown and green together and it'll form kind of a dull olivey color. Then I decided to add some of that green to the mountain in the background as well. And the cool thing about watercolor is you can just keep layering on colors. So that I mixed in some dark blue and just kind of kept adding colors until it was how I like it. So now you can see I'm adding some brown to the mountains that are a little bit closer to make them slightly darker than the ones further away. For this next one, I wanted kind of a brighter green, so I mixed some green with some yellow, and that will really brighten up your green. If you mix yellow with just a tiny bit of green, it will become kind of this like bright lime green, if that's the color you're looking for. And then in the foreground, I wanted it to be a nice grass green, so I added quite a bit of yellow to my green to really lighten it up. Now I'm just going to go in with some brown and add some highlights and darker areas. So mostly like right in between where all the foothills are to give it some like dimension and shadow. And I'm just going to keep layering and adding different colors and textures and give it some interest. Next, you can fill in your lake. So you want your lake to be the same color as your sky. So I'm using the same baby blue that I used for the sky. If you want your sky to be like a sunset orange, then put that orange in the lake as well, because the lake will always reflect the color of the sky. So I'm just carefully filling it in, trying not to overlap with the foothills because otherwise it will bleed together. To darken the sky a little bit, so I did another layer of blue. So that's another cool thing about watercolor is if you want it to be darker, you can just add another layer of that color on top. So now I'm switching to a smaller brush for finer details. And I'm just gonna add in a little bit of green into the lake for reflections from the mountains. So I'm just doing lines going like directly across the paper. Try to keep them super horizontal and just add a little bit of green right underneath each mountain. And I added a little bit more brown to the bottoms of each mountain, just to give it some more like shadow and dimension. So now I'm mixing my green with a dark blue, and I'm gonna add tiny little trees way back in the distance. So I'm just doing little lines going vertically right along the water line. Then with that same color, I'm gonna do those reflections in the water. So I'm gonna follow the same like pattern and just do little vertical lines in the water, reflecting those trees. So as trees get closer to you, they get bigger. So I'm gonna do some taller trees more in the foreground. So I'm still using that olive green color. And I'm just gonna do one tree on the left and then a few on the right side. So I mixed some green and brown together right on the palette. Then I'm just gonna place the tree trunks just to kind of lay out where I want the trees to go. Then I'm just kind of doing little dots all along those tree trunks. And I'm gonna keep it skinnier at the top and then wider as it gets to the base. Then I'm just gonna use that same green-brown mixture and add like some shadow right underneath the trees. So just make it a little bit darker right underneath them. And kind of just blend that out with some water. So then on the foothills closest to me, I'm just gonna do a little bit of grass. So I'm just doing like some skinny lines right along the ridge. Then I switched to my tiny little brush and using the same dark green color, I'm gonna add in some fine details and do just some really skinny little lines for the grass in the foreground. Just taking my time with it and holding the brush lightly, not pressing down too hard so that I get really fine lines. Then I'm just going to do some finishing touches, so I'm just adding a little bit more texture and just a few more layers of different shades of green, and maybe some darker shadows in some places, just wherever you feel like needs a little bit more work. And you're done. I hope you enjoyed this video and you liked how your landscape turned out. Thank you for watching. See you next time.